Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the half hour. Thai court removes Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra from office over leaked phone call with Cambodian leader. Protests erupt across Indonesia after a driver is killed by police vehicle in a demonstration. Plus, the EU's Kaja Kallas defends sanctions on Iran, says the EU had legal authority despite pushback from Tehran and Moscow. Let's begin the world today. And we begin in Thailand, where Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra has been removed from office by the Constitutional Court for violating ethics in a leaked June phone call where she could be heard calling Cambodia's former leader Hun Sen uncle and criticizing the Thai army amid worsening border tensions with Cambodia. The call was leaked by Hun Sen himself, damaging her reputation. Critics accuse her of undermining the country's army. The court said that Paetongtarn possessed a personal relationship that appealed to align with Cambodia and dismissed her claims that the call was a personal negotiation to bring back peace without using violence. The Constitutional Court ruled that it calls the public to cast doubt on whether her actions would benefit Cambodia more than the nation's interests. Paetongtarn acknowledged the court's verdict, but insisted she was trying to save lives. She becomes the fifth prime minister to be removed from office by the court since 2008. A protest by thousands of Indonesians is determined to continue after one ride-sharing driver was killed, having been hit by a police vehicle on Thursday night. The capital, Jakarta, has seen a series of demonstrations this week, with protests stemming from a number of issues. Some have turned violent, seeing police showing up with batons and shields and firing smoke bombs at police to stop people from throwing stones. Protesters initially took to the streets, angered over a lack of jobs, the cost of living, and a new housing allowance for MPs that are 10 times higher than Jakarta's minimum wage, which is 50 million rupiahs. That's more than £2,000. 7 members of the Mobile Brigade Corps have since been found to have violated the police professional code of ethics for the incident and have been put on leave. The protests are a key test for President Prabowo Subianto, who protesters say has to address a lack of jobs, low wages, high taxes, and rising cost of living. Let's switch gears now to Iran's nuclear program targeted by the European Union, which has imposed snapback sanctions on the country. Ally Russia thinks the decision has absolutely no legal bearing, but the Russian Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Dmitry Polyansky, took a swipe at the EU. Known as the E3, the UK, France and Germany had been in talks with Tehran over recent months. Snapback means a return to those UN sanctions on Iran, which were lifted under the 2015 deal in return for the country limiting its nuclear program. The Trump administration withdrew from the deal in 2018 and has not been involved in talks with Israel-Iran conflict in June.
The second option is clearly represented by the action that was triggered today by France, UK and Germany. You all know that they circulated a letter triggering so-called snapback. I will not explain you this procedure in detail. I think everybody who is knowledgeable of this fact doesn't have such a necessity. But I will say that this move by European countries, in our view, has absolutely no legal bearing, because they were not implementing Resolution 2231 in good faith. For example, they did nothing in terms of lifting sanctions against Iran during the so-called transition day 2 years ago. They are acting absolutely in breach of JCPOA in each and every sense and letter and spirit of this document. They have not exhausted the mechanisms foreseen by JCPOA, first and foremost dispute resolution mechanism. So we do not think that this move by these three countries should entail any action from the Council. This is our very strong and principled conviction.
Let's hear more now from the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas, on those snapback sanctions on Iran by the E3. She also responded to a question about the Iranian view that the move was illegal and unjustified.
When we talk about on the European Union level, then what is our contribution to the security guarantees is the training mission, military mission, and also the support for defense industry of Ukraine. So all these three elements, also the neutral countries can participate. Russia does not want peace. That is very clear right now, also the attacks that they are doing. So we have to put the pressure on them so that, that they would also want peace. And this is the only thing that works on that.
Ukrainians are observing a day of mourning for the more than 23 people killed in the capital after the biggest Russian aerial attack of the war. Kyiv Mayor Vasily Klitschko said it was to honor the dead as a massive recovery effort continues at the 5-story block of flats where 22 of the 23 people were killed. There was less fighting between Russia and Ukraine overnight into today, although both have reported shooting down dozens of drones. The Ukrainian military said it had carried out overnight strikes on a facility in Russia's Bryansk region, which it said was responsible for the pumping of fuel to supply Moscow's war effort. Speaking after a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron on Thursday, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said it seemed unlikely now that a meeting between Putin and Zelensky will take place. Russia's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova told reporters on Friday that current Western proposals for a security guarantee risked turning Ukraine into what she called a provocateur on Russia's border. We're in the United States now as California Governor Gavin Newsom condemns President Donald Trump's approach to crime, calling it a militarization of American cities. It comes after Trump decided to put the Metropolitan Police Department under federal control in what he described as a step aimed at addressing rising crime rates. The move has sparked strong opposition and was claimed to disproportionately target minority-led communities and undermine democratic governance. Meanwhile, Trump indicated similar actions to follow in other Democrat-led cities, including Chicago and New York.
We do it every week. We're highlighting these things. I've had probably 9 or 10 press conferences on this topic over the course of the last few years. So we're not reacting or responding to anything, quite the contrary, with one caveat. The community wants to see more. And we are trying to be responsive to the people we serve. As it relates to the president in particular, he's doing things to people, not with people. It's a point of profound and consequential contrast. He's de facto militarizing American cities. That's why I led with the Breyer decision. Again, certainly here in California, the impacts, though, will be discussed and debated if he moves in our direction across the United States. But I should note, just on that, if he is to invest in crime suppression, I hope the President of the United States would look at the facts. Just consider Speaker Johnson's state and district. Just look at the murder rate. That's nearly 4 times higher than California's. In Louisiana, this is Speaker Johnson, 4x higher. I'm just offering, again, you not see this on Fox News, so President may not be familiar with these facts.
And an update now on the shooting at a school in Minneapolis. Investigators say the attacker was obsessed with the idea of killing children. The gunman, identified as Robin Wetman, killed 2 children and injured 18 others when he opened fire on the children gathered for mass at a Catholic school. Police say he did not seem to have any specific motive, but he appeared to hate all of us. More than anything, the shooter wanted to kill children. The murdered children have been identified by family as 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel and 10-year-old Harper Mioski.
I want to begin today's briefing by addressing the horrific shooting that took place yesterday at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where a deranged shooter opened fire during morning mass, killing an innocent 8-year-old and 10-year-old. 14 other children and 3 adults were also injured during this horrible tragedy. This was the first morning mass of the school year for these beautiful, innocent children, and this sacred religious service was desecrated by an evil monster. We are all eternally grateful to the heroic law enforcement officers and first responders whose courage and swift response aided all of those impacted by this horrible tragedy. As Director Kash Patel confirmed yesterday, the FBI is currently investigating this shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. President Trump signed a proclamation yesterday following his call with the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, acknowledging the victims and their families and directing flags to be flown at half-mast. President Trump and the First Lady encouraged the entire nation to join all of us in praying for the victims and their families as they face unimaginable grief and loss.
Staying in the United States, but in another development, President Donald Trump has ordered the withdrawal of Secret Service protection for former Vice President Kamala Harris. Harris had been entitled to receive 6 months of extra security after leaving office in January, which was due to expire in July. Her protection had been extended by another year by an executive directive signed by her former boss, but this was revoked by Trump in a memo. The move comes just weeks before Harris embarks on a national book tour to promote 107 Days, a memoir of her short-lived and ultimately unsuccessful presidential campaign in 2024. Sources familiar with the situation told U.S. news media, CBS, that a recent threat assessment found nothing alarming that would warrant extending her detail past the legally mandated 6-month period she was entitled to. South Africa's International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola has dismissed claims of genocide in the country. He was addressing concerns around the expedited visa process for Kenyan nationals who were expected to assist the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria with refugee settlement applications. According to local reports, the U.S. State Department intends to deploy around 30 Kenyan volunteers for the program.
The visa application for the Kenyan nationals who have applied to Home Affairs to come and assist with the program that is aimed to fast-track Afrikaners on an immigration program of the U.S. It's an individual application by those individuals, and Home Affairs has processed it in accordance with its laws. And I believe they can be able to communicate as to the situation. As to whether the U.S. government has engaged us on this matter or not, yes, they have, through various interlocutors. And we have maintained that as a South African government, we don't agree that this is a refugee program, because there is no genocide in South Africa. And in line with the UN Convention, the Afrikaners that are going to the US do not fit the definition of refugee.
Meanwhile, 7 migrants deported from the U.S. have arrived in Rwanda, the first of 250 expected to be taken in by the African state under a deal reached with President Donald Trump's administration. Rwandan government spokesperson Yolande Makolo says a first group of 7 vetted migrants arrived in Rwanda in mid-August. However, she gave no details about their nationalities, only explaining that 4 of them would remain in Rwanda, with 3 opting to leave and return to their home countries. Rights groups have warned that such deportations could breach international law if people are sent to countries where they risk torture or other abuses. Trump has focused on a sweeping mass deportation scheme to remove undocumented migrants from the U.S. starting his or second term in January. And so far, at least a dozen nations have agreed to accept deported migrants from other countries. And asylum seekers can remain at a hotel in Epping, Essex, after the government won a court appeal. This is happening in the UK. Nearly 140 men staying at the Bell Hotel have been ordered to leave by mid-September, but senior judges overturned an earlier ruling and criticized that judgment as seriously flawed. The Home Office and the hotel argued that removing the men could damage the asylum accommodation system. The court agreed, calling this an important win for the government. The hotel has been at the center of protests and counter-protests in recent weeks. This after a migrant house there was charged with sexually assaulting a teenage girl, a charge that he denies. Well, this week, Germany marked 10 years since the country opened its doors to hundreds of thousands of refugees. Back then, Angela Merkel, who was the German chancellor, uttered her now famous words, "We can do it." Deutsche Welle's Chiponda Chimbelu joins us now from Berlin with more. Chiponda, great to see you. How has the mood on immigration shifted in Germany since 2015?
Well, in 2015, Germans were open to taking in refugees, and that year we had unforgettable images of German families welcoming thousands of refugees arriving at train stations from countries like Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Now, fast forward to 2025, we now have more than 2/3 of Germans saying that Germany should take in fewer refugees, and that's according to a leading poll. Now, the government is under pressure to crack down on irregular migration, also because the far-right AfD, which is known for its anti-immigration rhetoric, is the biggest opposition party in the Bundestag. Its popularity has grown in the aftermath of the arrival of hundreds of thousands of refugees, also because of growing opposition to immigration in Germany.
And what has changed in Germany's approach to migration, Chiponda?
Well, despite the rise that we've seen in anti-immigration sentiment here, Germany's immigration policies actually are more relaxed now than they were in 2015. And it is now much easier to move to Germany for work, and the amount of time required to get German nationality for both refugees and regular immigrants is much shorter. And on top of that, foreigners no longer have to give up their nationalities to become German citizens. Now, that is because Germany needs younger workers to help it pay for the rising costs of the country's pension system, with the millions of baby boomers going into retirement over the coming years. And despite the shift in the rhetoric on immigration, Germany is actually a very diverse country. But of course, there are challenges here for foreigners integrating into society, whether they are refugees or even regular immigrants.
I'm sure there are challenges ahead. What are they, Chiponda?
Well, the government now needs to show that it is taking a tougher stance on immigration to appeal to voters, and at the same time, it needs to promote Germany as a good place to do business and also to work in, so that the country can remain an industrial powerhouse. Now, that is, of course, something that will require a delicate dance from Berlin. And so far, many polls show that foreigners and minorities in Germany are increasingly feeling unwelcome here. And businesses, of course, are also already complaining about how hard it is to find workers, especially in regions where the far right is very popular. So while the government's actions when it comes to restricting irregular migration do not target regular immigrants, the rhetoric around immigration can make Germany feel less welcoming for foreigners and minorities in general. So of course, Berlin has to find the right balance.
Finding the right balance. Chiponda, thanks again for joining us on the program. Now, not sure where you've seen anything like this before. The nights in South Korea's capital, Seoul, are ablaze with innovation and imagination at the Light DDP Festival, casting the iconic Dangdaemun Design Plaza into a mesmerizing canvas of light motion and digital artistry. There it is. From August 28th to September 7th, the Everflow Moving Field edition transforms the heart of the city into an open-air gallery where architecture, nature, and cutting-edge technology converge. Drawing 500,000 visitors and garnering international acclaim, Seoul Light DDP provides a visionary experience where light tells stories, turning the capital city into a living work of art.
It has has been a great experience. I heard about the event last week, and since I heard about it, I knew that we have to come here. And yeah, like the music, the views, and all the art that have been here have been amazing, and I have really loved it. Like, it has been a really dream come true.
We're ending the bulletin today with red-hot lava continuing to flow down Mount Etna's slopes after a new vent opened on Thursday following the volcano's latest eruption that began on August 14. Plumes of smoke and fountains of magma poured from fissures with bright lava flowing, illuminating Europe's largest active volcano. The Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology has reported that the effusive vent at 3,200 meters on the southeast flank remains active, feeding a lava flow descending southwest. The front has reached around 3,030 meters in altitude. Two other vents at 3,100 and 2,980 meters also remain active, with the southeast crater continuing to produce moderate strombolian explosions and proclastic activity. Mount Etna, located on the island of Sicily in Italy, has remained in a near constant state of eruption since 2013, with 5 major outbursts recorded just last year.